Self-care is wealth care. If you take care of yourself, you take care of your wealth. If you take care of your wealth, then your wealth will take care of you. The very first thing you want to acknowledge if you want to get your money to the next level is whether or not you have a spending addiction. That's right. You might ask, what is a spending addiction? Well, let me tell you. A spending addiction is what you have when you go to the grocery store for toothpaste and walk out with $179.47 worth of stuff you don't need, talking about it was on sale. That was not on sale for you. If it doesn't fit, get rid of it. If it ain't free, it ain't on sale if it's not in your budget. Because 1 + 1 = 2. And if your stuff adds up to 10, it will never, ever get into 2. So the very first test that we all must pass if we want to get to the next level in the money game is to simply honor mathematics. And this is not major mathematics. This is not calculus. It's not algebra. It's what we learned in first grade. 1 + 1 = 2. Now go take a look at your stuff. All the stuff that you want to buy. If your income is only 2, you can't buy 10. If your income is only 1,000, you can't buy 10,000. If your income is only 1,000,000, you can't buy 10 million. It doesn't matter what your income level is. The goal is to spend less money than what you have. Here's another sign that you may have a spending addiction. If you are window shopping for stuff you don't need. You see, nobody window shops for toothpaste. Nobody window shops for soap. Nobody window shops for toilet tissue. You actually go and get those things when you need them, and hopefully they're there. And if they're not, then you go to another store and you go and find what you need. Chances are, if you are window shopping, you are shopping for something that you cannot afford and that you don't need. Let me repeat. Chances are, if you are window shopping, that you are shopping for something you can't afford and you don't need. So if you're at the mall and you've spent money getting to the mall, yep, you spent money either getting on the bus, the train, or an Uber, or you drove your car and you used gas. So every time you move, you're spending money. When you walk into the mall, at some point you're going to get hungry. You need something to drink. Now you need a Slurpee or a slushie, or you need one of those pretzels that they have. So you're in the mall spending money. And if you are not spending money, you are spending time. And then you're walking around and seeing everything that's in the store that you cannot afford, that you want to get. And then you're dreaming about your next check or that bonus or whatever it is. Let me explain something to you. You cannot gain inner peace from buying things. You see, material illness is what you have when a material thing's presence gives you pleasure and its absence gives you pain. Let me repeat. Material illness is what you have when a material thing's presence gives you pleasure and its absence gives you pain. Now, let me give you an example of how this played out in my life. I remember when I had to file bankruptcy right after the Great Recession of 2008. And I had the car, really the car of my dreams at that time. It was a beautiful cream Lexus with gold trim and beautiful cream leather seats. And oh my God, I love this car. When I would drive up to certain places, people say, oh, you have such a beautiful car. I love this car. But when it was time to file bankruptcy and I was repentant and I was like, I'm never going to go through this again, I decided to put the car in the bankruptcy, which meant I would not be able to drive it again. I had to drive my 2000 Toyota that had a broken door. So in order for me to drive, I had to get in on the passenger side and then crawl over to the driver's side to actually drive. And then my beat up old BMW that didn't have power or anything. I had to roll the windows down, and exert all this energy. That's what I chose to drive because I did not have material illness. You see, I certainly got pleasure when I drove my beautiful Lexus. But when it was gone, I didn't feel any different. I didn't feel less than. I didn't feel like I missed anything. My value did not decrease. My gratitude did not decrease. My belief about my relevance to this world did not decrease. If you feel value from buying the latest designer belt, designer purse, new clothing, latest gadget, nice vehicle, if you feel like that brings you value in the eyes of yourself and others, then you potentially have material illness. And that material illness will lead to a spending addiction. Because every time you feel less than, then you will go and spend money so you can feel more than. Putting $5,000 rims on a $500 car That's not about value. That's about wanting to look like you've achieved a certain status. Going to buy a purse that costs more than the amount of money you can keep in it on a regular basis, it has nothing to do with value. That's about trying to look like you are in a certain class that you may not be in. Now, is there anything wrong with the rims? Is there anything wrong with the purse? Is there anything wrong with the clothing? Absolutely not. But if you don't have enough money saved in your retirement, if you don't have enough money saved in your emergency fund, and what I'm saying about retirement and an emergency fund, I'm saying in your emergency fund, do you have at least, minimally, at least 6 months of living expenses saved in your emergency fund in case of a pandemic, in case of a virus that puts us all in quarantine, in case of a company that shuts down and decides that they no longer need any employees, in case of a furlough on your job, in case anything happens? Do you have at least 6 months of living expenses saved? If the answer is no, then I want you to say no to your spending addiction. You see, a spending addiction is what you have when you feel like you need to use money to please someone else. Oh, yes, I had that addiction. I used to use money to please my children. I used to use money to please my family members. You know, I would loan money to people even when I didn't have it, so they wouldn't think I was broke, which I was. Yeah, I was broke, but I didn't want them to know it, and I didn't want to face it. So I'd give them my rent money or my mortgage money, and then I didn't have the money to pay my mortgage. So then I'd go work harder and harder and harder to get the money, and I would spend the money before I got it. All of that. Spending addiction. So if you have a spending addiction, understand that it is no different than any other addiction. It is no different than a drug addiction. It is no different than a gambling addiction. It is no different than any other addiction. The problem is those who have a spending addiction, we tend to judge others who have other addictions. And the truth is, it's all the same thing. It's spending money on things that we do not have the money to spend on, and spending it anyway in hopes that that thing will bring us something in return. Gambling. You're spending money on gambling in hopes that what you spend will bring you something in return that's greater than what you had. And that usually does not end well. A drug addiction. You're spending money that you probably don't have on something that you think is going to bring you a feeling or an emotion that you don't have. You think it's going to take you up, but it's actually going to take you down. And every time it takes you down, you go back and you spend more money on that thing, thinking that the next time it's going to make you better. Do you have an addiction to spending money on people that you love? If you're a female, are you spending money trying to win a man over? Are you helping him get back on his feet? Are you giving him money for clothing? Is he driving your car all day and you have to take the bus home from work? Or even worse, you're just sitting at home waiting on him to come back with your vehicle. Are you spending money on your children, even though they're not doing the best that they can in school, or even if they are doing the best that they can in school, but you think that by giving them money that you don't have, that you're showing that you love them? Let me tell you something. All of it is a lie. Because your value comes from you being able to help people and not enable them. You see, enabling people doesn't help anybody, and helping people helps everyone. When you enable someone by giving them money that you don't have for the things that they say they need, then what you are doing is prohibiting them from growing. Because every time somebody asks you for money doesn't mean they need money. Every time you go and buy a new pair of shoes or buy a new outfit or buy something else to please yourself, it's not because you really need that thing. What you need to do is fill up on the inside. Give yourself self-care. And self-care is wealth care. When you take care of your money, you take care of yourself. Now, how are you going to get over this spending addiction? Well, do what I did. Only use cash for your incidentals. Now, if you followed me in the 21 Days to Financial Freedom, you can find it on my website. Go to lynnrichardson.com or go to asklynn.org. And in the 21 Days to Financial Freedom, not only am I going to show you how to break generational curses, but I'm going to teach you how to get over a spending addiction. And quite frankly, with the 30% that you use for your incidentals, it needs to be in cash. In cash. Now, because we are in a different time and maybe cash is not accepted some places, you're going to take your incidental money and put it on a separate card, separate from your savings, separate from your bills, and separate from what you use for giving, and separate from your retirement account. This money that is cash only purposes is all you get to spend on groceries, gas, hair, nails, pedicures, manicures, the new iPhone, the new video game, whatever it is. All of it has to come out of your incidental or your cash money. I remember going to the grocery store and all I had was $100 cash. By the time I got to the counter to check out, I had $200 worth of stuff. What would I have done if I had a debit card, a credit card, or a check where my bill money was? Guess what? I would have done what most people do. I would have started swiping. I would have started writing, because I would not have had the discipline to stop spending more than I had, or I would have had shame. I wouldn't have wanted to look like I didn't have the money, because you know what happens then. You have to start putting stuff back, and the people in line behind you start getting irritated, and then you start getting irritated with them, and then there's just a terrible cycle. So what you do is just spend the money you don't have, and guess who loses? You. So you want to take the first 10% you tithe, the next 10% of every dollar you get you save. That 30% is cash for your incidentals, or it's on a reloadable debit card that you cannot overdraw. That 30%, and the remaining 50% stays in your checking account for your bills. I want you to get over your spending addiction. When you go to the store for one thing and you walk out with 10 things. When you start window shopping for things that you don't need. And when you spend money on people because you think that spending money on them is a token of your love, and really it's enabling their demise and yours. So I want you to elevate. I want you to grow. I want you to be powerful. I want you to be able to use money as a tool to grow, to build, to truly have wealth care. And it all starts with self-care. So I want you to subscribe, share this video, and then head on over to LynnRichardson.com and get help.